you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want two flavor flavors.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Happy Hoodlums podcast. It's your host, Kemper Woodruff, the Happy Hoodlum himself. We also have the Meat Fortress, Mr. Zachary Sampson, and our baby hoodlum, Josh Taylor. And tonight, we have a very special guest, an American icon, the official American badass, Dale Comstock. So, welcome in, Dale. For those that don't know, Dale's accolades run on forever. You know, the man's been a Green Beret, Delta Force, mercenary, which is like the next level because he went back into the fight with nothing but his mind and no big army to back him, right? Came back on top as usual, won a bodybuilding contest at the age of 50, I believe. He's an author. He's been on TV. There's really nothing that this man can't do, and he's a testament to what integrity and perseverance is. So welcome, Dale, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. And just to address the elephant in the room, I don't want to be laying down right now. A little bit today, so I got about 40 cc's of blood in my spine, and I can't sit up straight, so I got to lay down. So
everybody's got a bed in the backdrop. Everybody's got a bed in the backdrop, you know. We should call us like the Pillow Talk or something like that, you know. The Pillow Talk podcast.
It's off this podcast has been on to date, but we're gonna make it work.
We can't even get out of bed to do a podcast anymore.
Oh no.
Comfort
only.
I really want to explain to people that Dale is the epitome of not what to think, but how to think. And his life coaching really centers around this mantra. And so, Dale, I've kind of come up with a little bit of challenge for you because I watched you on the InfoWars podcast. And I know you're a man that's always up to the task. And we know that the state of America is in crisis. I feel that what America's going through right now is a true identity crisis. And we see it across the board, you know, from what we're doing overseas, what we're doing at home, all the propaganda, the proxy war, everything that's going on. So we know there's a lot of messed up things that are being orchestrated right now. So my challenge to you is to exemplify and give the people an example of how you think. Give us a State of the Union address from President Comstock that's strictly solution oriented.
Yeah. Well, so as you know, I do a lot of podcasts, and I end up a lot of these different news channels. I just did news, not Newsmax, but the Stu Peters show recently as well, about a week before the last one, InfoWars. Yeah. So the world's falling apart. Right now I'm actually calling you from Bali, Indonesia. This is where my home is, my business is. Of course, I have a home in Florida, and I do business there as well. And I actually have a home in Manila, the Philippines, and I do business there. So I'm a guy that's traveled over 97 countries, either lived there, worked there, or traveled through there for whatever.
Oh.
And thinks about, you know, Americans, and well, one of the things is the rest of the world tends to follow the American lead on everything, right? They emulate us, and the good and the bad. But now I'm starting to get the sense that they don't look up to us anymore, but they kind of look down to us. And so with that said, now the U.S. side of things, you know, it's obvious what's going on in America. What was left is now right. What was up is now down. What's backwards is forward. We don't know the difference between men and women. It's just like, what in the hell is going on here? And it's not an accident. It's not. This is this is what's happening in America has been something that's been really evolving for probably the last 100 years, but particularly in the last 50 years. And you can see the evolution. And it didn't start with a guy named Dr. Spock, but he was one of the guys that came out with the book, said, you know what, don't spank your children, don't, and suddenly we find we've got these external forces that want to tell us how to raise our children, what we can and can't do with them. Now we have schools that are supposed to be there just to teach our children, inculcating our children in some kind of like really weird socialist thought. And when we have schools telling our kids they can be whatever they want, and they can, and there's tell them that you can change their sex and all the things. I don't even have to tell you all the things. But all the things that are going on is just it's just not some kind of temporary anomaly. This is something that has been in the works for a while. It's deliberate. It's not a conspiracy theory, because let's look back the last couple of years with COVID, right? Oh, that's a conspiracy theory. It came out of a lab. It came from a bat in a meat market. Masks, don't work. That's a conspiracy theory. Of course they work. The vaccines don't work. Of course they work. And now we're finding out everything that was supposed to be a conspiracy theory is actually true, right? And so here's how I look at it. The world is made up of the dumb masses, and this goes all the way back beyond the Romans, actually. But the Romans are the ones that said, you know what, let's give the dumb masses bread and circus, and they'll never pay attention to what's going on in the Senate. And we watched one of the greatest empires in the world collapse because of that. What they did was they literally swayed popular opinion. They swayed the dumb masses. They led the dumb masses like Piper over the cliff, and everybody just happily followed, because they look at government, they look at the news, they look at school teachers, they look at these people as figures of authority, and whatever they say must be true, because how could it not be true? They're the president, they're the government, they're school teachers, they're news. This is the business they're in, is telling the truth, when in fact they're all lying. Over and over and over. When you watch the InfoWars thing that I did the other day, I put myself out there because I told Americans that are considering going to the military, don't do it. And I said, don't fight for this country. Now that sounds pretty blasphemous. What do you mean, don't fight for our country? Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Do not fight for this country, because right now this country is this government. This particular government is the country. It's running everything, all the way down to our food, to what our children are being taught. Everything is being controlled by this government, and it's getting worse. And so why would you fight for this government? There's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about what they're doing. And I talked about Ukraine. Ukraine is not our war. Has nothing to do with us. Oh, but if we don't fight the Russians, they could take over. You know what? Look how many years we've been funding NATO, right? We give them the majority of their money. And what did they do with that money they were supposed to use to pay for their defenses? They build parade armies. They squander the shit. And now they go, oh, we don't have an army to fight with. Come and send your American boys and girls to fight for us. That's what they're asking for. Okay, and this is what that knucklehead in office is contemplating right now. Why are we fighting this war that's a proxy war for the Americans to fight the Russians? It's all it is, a proxy war. And who benefits from that? We don't benefit from that. In fact, we lose from that. How much money did we send already to Ukraine? $200 billion? Man, we could have spent that money on our own people, the homeless people and all those other crap we could use the money for. Give everybody a tax break, for crying out loud. No, we're giving this money, we're giving our weapons, our ammunition to a country. The cause we're supporting is the cause for Biden, not just Joe Biden, by the way. There's a lot of people, a lot of politicians invested in the Ukraine. The biochemical labs, there's a lot of them over there. That's also what's got the Russians concerned. We lied. The U.S. lied, because originally when NATO was started, we promised we had 13 members. We were going to expand on that, and then suddenly we're up to 30 members, and now we're knocking on the doors of the Russians with Ukraine. We're doing the same thing that happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis when the Russians showed up in Cuba, right there on our front door, and we lost our shit, right? We threatened a nuclear war. Now the Russians are doing the same thing, and now they're the bad guys. But we lied, okay, on so many levels. And why would we trust the Ukrainians and this administration about them doing the right thing. Tell me what's right about what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, when you have Joe Biden standing on national television, basically telling the Ukrainian government, you either get rid of this guy or you don't get the $1 billion. Okay, we're blackmailing them, and what we're doing is we're using our political powers and our money to influence Ukrainian politics and businesses, and we're doing that. Why? Because he's invested in that. His son's invested in that. And white American people are not. Why that doesn't bother most of them, I just don't get it, man. Why would you not? Because, well, that's Joe Biden's business. That's his son's business. Yeah. Well, now this war, they're trying to make your business, right? They're trying to make it your son's business and your daughter's business. And people are not. See, people can't. I don't know what it is, but they can't focus beyond MTV or whatever the hell's going on. But you know what? There's a bigger world out here. We all live in it, and if you don't get involved in it, you know, you're gonna become a victim of it. You know, I hate when people tell me, well, I don't pay attention to news. It's just so full of drama and this and that. And yeah, that's exactly what they want you to do. They don't want you to pay attention to the news, right? Because if you're not paying attention to the news, you don't know what the hell's going on. You're an idiot. You're a total idiot. And by the way, I said earlier, you can't trust the news. It's true, you can't trust the news, right? The point is you need to watch the news. It's like monitoring your enemy. What are they doing now? What are they saying now? And then what you have to do is do your own due diligence. You got to do your own work, your own research, and come up with your own conclusions. That's the only way you're going to save yourself, your families, and our freedom. It's really, man, it's hanging by a thread. And I think the thing that's going to push us over the edge, as soon as we go with digital currency, we're done. You're done. You got no power left. You got no juice left. And so, you know, what's got to happen, honestly, we're like I said in the InfoWars show, you know, we're circling the drain. We're ready to go down the drain. We're just about done. Digital currency will put us under for sure. This whole one world global government, you know, I got a brother, my son-in-law. I mean, this guy actually believes in a global government, world war government. I said, what are you thinking, you monkey? The guy has never left the country. You know, why would you want something like it? Well, go outside and venture outside our borders and see what people really think about us. They don't like Americans. They just want what we got. They just want our stuff. They'd like to see us dead. That's it, man. You know, and so this is not a good thing. It sounds good. I was at the G20 summit when I was here not too long ago in Bali, and I got to listen to some of the some of the stuff that they were putting out there at one of the seminars. And here's what I heard. I heard we have a food shortage, we have a water shortage, we have an energy shortage. There's going to be another pandemic, so we need a travel vaccine card from the WHO. Everybody has to have one so they can go to supermarket, whatever. And oh yeah, the Russians are bad; they're going to kill us all. And so with that, we need one world government so we can all be safe. That was the story, right? And so, and I just wanted to run out there and just call him a liar in front of everybody, man. The guy spent $5 million just to do that one weekend seminar, right? There were a bunch of big name people there, and it's all bullshit. It's like they're brainwashing themselves. And I don't think they were trying to convince themselves. I think they were just saying it over and over, hoping it'll make the media and the news and everybody buys into it. Why? Because the dumb masses are not smart enough. They're not educated enough, nor are they willing to do the work and actually do the analysis and throw the bullshit flag. And so, you know, we are slowly being devoured by this machine that is almost overrun us all. And you know, but there is good news though. There is the antithesis to this thing. There's a movement afoot, and I'm proud to say that I'm a part of it. That is now the antithesis to the global reset. Okay, there's a movement afoot that has got a lot of power, a lot of momentum, and this is what the global reset. This is the globalists, the Bilderbergs, these people that are advocating, you know, for the Schwabs and all these others that are advocating for one world government. They're scared of, and this is why things are happening, like the pandemics. Okay, look, the pandemic came about just when they were about to get exposed, and I can't go into all the details on it, but let me put it this way. Does anybody really think that COVID was a deadly, dangerous virus? No, absolutely zero. When it has a 99.9978% survival rate, can you think about that? You have a better chance of dying from the flu and from the cold than you do from COVID. But they kept telling us, oh, we're going to all die if we all don't get vaccinated. And if you take the vaccine, you'll survive. You'll be okay. You're not going to get the COVID. and people are getting 4 or 5 shots, and now they're actually going down from all kinds of other diseases and side effects from all these vaccines. Okay, this was a lie, a huge lie, and it's all coming out now. Right now, it's like, oh, I guess it is true. It wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was never a conspiracy theory. It was deliberately squashed. Look at the Twitter files, right? So they deliberately, working with the U.S. government, intentionally, deliberately censored truth, censored people, experts. Dr. Malone actually developed the mRNA virus. He's the one who invented it. He came out and said it's bad, and here's why. And they kicked him off YouTube. They kicked him off of Twitter for misinformation. Hello, and why are people wait to that, man? Why are people like just okay? Get rid of that guy for lying. Why would he lie? He created it. So we're in the middle of a giant psychological operations. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term what's it called? Mass hypnosis psychosis or mass. There's another term for it too. I call it mass hypnosis psychosis. It's a psyops term in the military, but essentially what you do is you put attention, you deflect it to something else by go, oh, look at over here. Why? So nobody's paying attention over here, right? We do the same thing in psychological operations. We drop leaflets and stuff, and basically brainwash people to believe in one thing when actually something else is going on. In order to win any kind of a war, you've got to win win over the population. You've got to win over the majority of people on your side, right? If you want to win this war. Mm-hmm. So you've got to do things to do that. And this is where we're at, right? This elite, these elitists, if you will, they have to win over the majority of the world, of the population. And so those that they're not winning over, they censor, right? They get rid of, they marginalize. So who are they going after? They're going after the dumb masses again. The people that refuse. Look, and just because you have an education doesn't make you smart, okay? It does not make you can buy an education, but you can't buy effective intelligence, okay? And most of these smart people, I'm amazed, man, got doctoral degrees, and they're scientists, and they're total idiots. They're complete idiots. They have no world experience. They spend their whole life in academia, flying a desk, right? And suddenly they're a world expert on world affairs, and they've never been in the world before. You got a comment?
Yeah. So I think I've gotten to the bottom of how this is working, right? And I was listening to a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, written by a man named Maxwell Maltz. And it talks about the power of self-image, right? And if you follow this whole line of propaganda, everything that they're pandering to is based on intelligence versus idiot, right? And so these people that are sold this idea that they're intelligent, right? And they want to self-identify with that, have this image. Now, what he said, and this all came about because he was a cosmetic surgeon, and he said these beautiful women kept coming in and really like wanting to change themselves because they had a terrible self-image. And he realized that you cannot motivate somebody against their self-image because their subconscious will reject anything that doesn't align with it. And that the power of the subconscious mind is that in order to change self-image, you have to identify and then attach it to a goal, and your subconscious will drive you there. Now, a great example of this is drug addicts, right? A drug addict has a terrible self-image of themselves to begin with, generally, and that's why they get into it, right? And then this progresses until they find themselves in a place, usually when they hit rock bottom, where they go, whoa, I am not a drug addict, right? And that's the moment where they accept their new self-image, right? And they attach it to the goal. I do not do drugs. And no matter how difficult that fucking process is, they will go through everything. No money, living in a car, whatever they have to do, stuff with their family, they will be driven to the end of that goal. And so mass hypnosis, like you're saying, is starting centered around the self-image that we feed people. And that's why I think America is truly in a state of identity crisis, and where we do not anymore empower ourselves as Americans. Americans used to be attached to an ideal, a goal that at least drove people in a positive direction. And what I'm realizing is when you take the boundaries of right and wrong away and you strip the moral compass, people are extra impressionable, right? And so we have these polar opposite, you know, bumper sticker mentalities. People saying you're for this, you're against this, you're either down with gay people or you're against them. And really, most people don't give a shit. But what they do give a shit about is their own self image. And now we're in a crisis because if you have no moral compass, right? You don't know what's right and what's wrong. Now I can spoon feed you whatever I need you to walk off that cliff. What are
Well,
your thoughts?
yeah, no, you're right. And so we talked a lot about this in the coaching, but you know, for a it's like collective intelligence, man. We are all interconnected in one way or another, right? So, and you're right. Thoughts right now is what's taking hold. I.e., there are people out there, there are organizations out there that have constantly hammered us with this idea of, well, first of all, let's sexual abuse, right? They started with the Me Too movement. That evolved into believe all women, right? And so, and now there's this. I actually just heard it again on the news today about we should really start believing all women. Because what's his name? The guy in Hollywood that's on trial right now for
Is it Andrew Tate?
No, not Andrew Tate. Well, there's another one, right? That's an interesting one too, right? Because here's a guy that's very vocal, and suddenly he gets rolled up, and and he's being. I don't even think they've charged the guy. They're just holding him up, right? They're until they find out what to charge him about, which is really kind of strange, But and I also think that these voices that are on, these voices, some of these voices of common sense are being, again, we're still being attacked. I think Andrew Tate's one of those guys. Not sure if I agree with everything he says, but I agree with most of what he says. I don't follow him that closely, but the bits that I have followed, I definitely agree with him. I believe in the mindset that he has. That's what has allowed him to be successful, man. He's got the right mindset. He's not limited by other people's thoughts. And because he wouldn't allow himself to be limited, that's why he's probably in the jail right now, because they've now they're limiting his movement and everything else until they can figure out what they can nail him to the cross for. But I think you're right. So it goes back to this whole thing of mass hypnosis. I would argue that only about 5% of the population is going to carry the other 95%. Always has. Think about it. Who are the producers in the world, right? It's about 5% of the population. Everybody else is a taker. Everybody else is a consumer, right? Who's actually making the world go around? Who's actually making things happen? For example, businesses. Who's starting businesses, right? And successful businesses. And who's getting beat up for that? Well, look at Elon Musk. Everybody's mad at Elon Musk because he's the richest man in the world. But look what the guy is doing. He's literally changing the world, and he's giving people work and money and opportunities. Yet he's still villainized. There's a lot of companies out there. Companies are being attacked. The CEOs because how much money they make. And like it's something wrong with that. It's like this whole equity thing is a play again. Every CEO doesn't have to make that much money. He can spread the wealth to all his guys. That's called socialism. Okay, getting mad at Elon Musk for building a freaking dude. This guy's going to go down in history. I mean, here's a guy that literally has commercialized space travel. He created PayPal, man. He's created electric vehicles. I mean, this guy is and he's moving mountains, man. And guess what? Guess what he did, man? He got us our freedom of speech back. He brought attention back to it. He bought Twitter, man. I'm telling you what, the guy saved. He may have saved us all because the path we were going down with this censorship, and all these companies now getting getting banned because they're not following with equity and diversion and inclusion and all these stupid principles. They're getting banned. He may have just saved us by exposing Twitter, what was really going on, and confirming that we have forces out there, evil forces The ones that you thought you could trust in the government are actually evil and trying to suppress your speech. They're trying to control the information you get, i.e., they're trying to control your life by giving you misinformation. That's what, and keeping you quiet. That's pretty bad, man. That's pretty scary. So in that respect, Elon Musk, man, hats off to the guy, man. You know, he's in a lot of ways. I feel like in some ways he may have maybe saved humanity really from going down a really perilous and very, you know, bad road. But you know, not since I'm on that tangent a little bit, you know, people, you know, I always hear tax the rich. You got to tax the rich. Rich are not paying their fair taxes. Well, first of all, the rich are playing by the rules that were created, okay, when it comes to taxes, okay? Moreover, as a business owner, I take a lot of risk by starting a business, okay, in a company. And therefore, and I started a company and took a lot of risk because I want to make a lot of money, okay? Why else did I get in the business? Because I want to make a lot of money. And guess what? I get to hire a lot of people, give them jobs so they get money and security, okay? Don't get mad at me because I'm not giving them my salary and they're getting the same salary for doing less, okay? This is why I don't agree with unions either. I offer a guy a job to do X, Y, Z for me, create a widget. I'm going to offer him this much money. He accepts it. That's what he gets. Stop asking for more and this and that and getting mad at me because I make a lot of money because I use my head and not my fucking hands, you know? And so, but it's the guy that uses his head that creates the empires that we live in. It creates the world we live in. And we need to stop stifling people like this. We need to stop saying they need to pay their fair share of taxes. Well, let's just take that one for example. What is fair share? To me, fair share is everybody pays exactly the same amount of money. That's fair, right? If I make $1 billion and you make $1,000 and taxes should be $5, you pay $5, I pay $5. That's fair. We're paying an equal amount. How is it fair that I got to pay more money? You know, and Obama said, that son of a bitch, you know, well, because you got an opportunity to make more money. Everybody's got the same opportunity. I just happen to be smarter. I just happen to be lucky. I happen to figure it out and break the code. So I'm being penalized for that, right? So is that fair? No, it's not fair. And see, this is what people don't want to, they don't use their critical thinking skills. When they say fair taxes, yeah, they should pay more because they're making more. Well, why are they making more? Because they work harder. They take more risk. And so is it fair that they have to pay more taxes? In your mind, is that fair? No, it's like the what do you call it, participation trophy. Everybody gets a trophy. Even though your team sucked and never got off the bench, you get a trophy anyway. It's just like the winners. Like, that don't make no damn sense. You know, what are we raising? A bunch of weaklings in society, a bunch of freaking losers that want everything for free. You know,
So
don't want to work for it.
There's a concept that I was actually so I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, studying the greats, you know, Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie, all these guys. And the commonality that you find is that they say riches has always, like, being financially rich is not the only form of riches. However, it is the most virtuous state that any person can aspire to achieve, because it's the only way for you to progress to your ultimate heights, right? In a balanced way. Because if I'm the strongest worker, right, I have to work all day, but I feel unfulfilled in my family affairs, right? Or mentally, I've undermined myself, right? Or I can be Bill Gates, right? I can be the smartest motherfucker on the planet, right? But if I'm not physically strong, I know damn well, despite the fact that I can buy myself a fine ass mistress, right? And that gets the job done internally, I know I have not gotten myself to my physical, like, peak, and therefore I'm not met with my true companionship, and my soul is hurt from it. So all of this is required through balanced attainment of progressive wealth based on your own internal abundance of thought. And we're devaluing thought, right? And when you do that, you disempower people. What people are forgetting is that there's two aspects, two categories of people in the world. It's not just givers and takers. It comes down to believers and non-believers. Some people believe in physical things like this headboard, right? And that is secondary to the man who thought of this design and created this headboard, right? So everything is born first inside and birthed through you in your actions in alignment with your consciousness, right? And the world just has it backwards right now. And that is why money is such a powerful tool for persuasion, because you can affect and buy things, right? But you undermine someone if you give them money if they're going to use it in a ill planned way. If you have a plan and a strategy, you will be met with opportunity, because inherently that's the way money and opportunity flows. And it's a success frequency, it's a formula, and it's conscious.
It's like my coaching classes from you now. Very cool. No, but you're right, man. And I told you this in the beginning when we first talked. I said, Bill Gates, Tony Robbins, all these guys, they're very wealthy people. They're performance coaches, life coaches, but they're very linear, right? They've achieved richness and success in that realm, and they define success with their bank account, right, and how much money you got. And so, I define it differently. It's like, no, actually, I don't have any kind of money like they have, and probably never will. But I don't want that kind of money. That's not what makes me rich. I said I'm in fact the richest man in the world. You know why? Because my life experience is so vast and so deep that Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, all these guys, Bill Gates, they all lay in bed together at night, looking at each other, going, "I wonder what it'd be like to be Dale Comstock," because they can never buy my experience ever, right? And you mentioned it, Bill Gates. It's like, God, these are some of the guys that come to me sometimes. And I'm not knocking them, by the way, but I get guys that come to me for mentorship and coaching because they're very wealthy, but they haven't fulfilled themselves because they haven't been able to do the things that that they think defines them as a man, right? The I am. And so they recognize, yeah, I made a lot of money. I can buy a bunch of mistresses, I can buy nice cars and stuff, but they have to drive around that car with this hot chick next to them, looking at me, going, "Fuck, that guy could probably snatch the life out of me and take my girl and drive my car away," And so, and so they're always, there's that element of it, right? There's that part that of our nature that's there, and so I define wealth as, how do you define it? What makes you wealthy, right? So some people, they think it's money, and it's not. Some people think it's, I think it's experience, life experience. I live the life dreamed. I mean, literally, I'm right here. Today I'm laying on my bed. I didn't go to my office because I have time, but I'm looking out my window at my big picture window, looking at my palm trees, my swimming pool, my beautiful Indonesian wife, and I'm living the dream. I go to work when I want to work because it's my work. I've never had a boss since the time I left the Army in 22 years. I've always been my own boss. So I live this life fulfilled, so to speak. But and it's only getting better, and I can manifest everything I want with my thoughts, like you said. I know what's possible. I know it's possible for me. I know who I am and what I want, and I know how to get there. And it has nothing to do with my willpower or anything with philosophy. It has everything to do with my imagination, the dream that I want to live, and I can create my reality. But so I kind of went off a little bit of a tangent there. But ultimately, and I hate talking. I really don't like about politics too much. I mean, I do like getting on sometimes, like again, Newsmax and or Infowars, and I like to let go with both barrels and drop nukes where they need to be dropped. But because it's time to fight back. But for me, the politics is the center of my universe. I'm very aware of it, and I'm very weary of it. What I'm doing is creating a life so that I'm not impacted by it as much as most people are, because I have some sovereignty. I created that sovereignty for myself. So we'll never be free. No matter where you live in this world, you will never be free. Okay. That's the biggest lie ever. Americans are not free. Okay. They're not free. You're not free. You're still under man's law. You still have to answer to people, the government, the IRS, the police, that everybody. You're going to have to answer to somebody. It's just how many people do you want to answer to? I don't have to answer to too many people other than, well, now I got to answer to the Indonesian government and the U.S. government if I screw up. But I'm trying to minimize that as much as I can, and also trying to buy enough space for myself to to breathe and to live and not feel those kind of pressures all the time. My goal in life is really to help other people be better versions of themselves and be more aware of the world they live in, and stop being a lemming just following all the other lemmings over the cliff, so to speak. Blaze your own path, and but you have to be aware of what's going on around you, and not too many people are, man. They think they know, but they really don't know. And it's scary. It's really scary how influential and how powerful the dumb masses really are. The dumb masses as a collective have really put a lot of the smart people in a bad place. Look, they hurt my business 2 years ago with COVID. These numbnuts, literally, because their fears and shit, they shut down everything. I lost 55 employees. By the way, 55 employees who lost their payroll. 55 families were affected. Literally had no money left because I couldn't afford to pay them anymore. It just wiped out my company. I had to work 3 times harder just to take care of all our debt and everything that for this company and our ownership in it. So I had to work 3 times harder because these people were chicken shits. And because I worked 3 times harder, I didn't get the damn government, the $2,000 checks and stuff. Which, by the way, 2,000. I was amazing how many people were like, "Okay, I wait to get my $2,000, check for COVID." What are you gonna do with that? How long is that gonna last you? For me, that might last 2 weeks. After I buy groceries and pay bills and shit, that ain't even. That's not gonna put a dent, and I'm gonna get that one time. What?
Mhm.
What about the rest of the months, right? And so, but it's amazing how people were like, "Oh, I can't wait for my 2,000." They were all happy, man. And then they wanted more free money and more free money. Then they didn't want to go to work, And before you know, we got this lazy society that doesn't want to work. It's free money from the government. And then there's people out there like me, business owners that are not comfortable with sitting on their ass and getting free stuff, that actually are driven and motivated. And I got to keep working, and paying more taxes so you can sit on your ass over here. This whole world is wacky as hell, man. But
I
go ahead.
sorry. I think what makes you such an impactful role model, and what I've, you know, deduced from your coaching and being able to pick your brain, and what you really fed me on how to think, which thank you so much, is that what you described is you became who you knew you were and who you wanted to be, which is imagination. And there's a gentleman named Neville Goddard that I've been getting into his teachings, and he's phenomenal because he has an explanation of true Christianity, and it's what Jesus came to teach us, and that the Bible is not so much a historical accounting as the greatest metaphorical book ever written for the transformation of consciousness. And that each character in the Bible is actually representative of a different state of consciousness, right? And so, what it means to be taken by the Holy Spirit and overcome is really you realizing yourself that Jesus is not just a man, but is representative of the creative power of your imagination, right? And that God entrusts all of us with the same creative power that must be aligned with frequency, right? His frequency is what governs everything. That is the one consciousness that oversees the good of everything, right? And that's why you can't plant a negative seed and get a positive thing. Also, it's why when you have a thought, in the moment that you receive that thought, the reason why you can feel it is because it does exist. It exists outside of time, right? And it will be birthed through you, and all those plans are already in place. But you have to live with faith, that's inner knowing of the feeling of the wish fulfilled being the evidence of that thing coming to pass in time. And you can't worry about how, when, where, who, because time is irrelevant to an eternal being, right? And that's what it means to become aware of yourself. I am that I am, right? I am whatever I attach I am to, and feel it. Because you can know something from the outside looking in, but in order to actually know it spiritually, you have to become it, and you birth it through who you are. And that's the joy is in the journey. It's knowing that you're going in the right direction. And so all this education really empowers you to do is have the knowledge to justify the wisdom of that inner voice that told you you were it the whole time. And people aren't ready for that on a level where they can accept it internally and feel it. But what this has brought me to is the hard right versus the easy wrong. And this is the difference maker between men and boys, right? And children. And there's a story that you told me, and I'm curious if you would be willing to share. And it was when you were on the chopper during the Kurt Muse raid or rescue, and the gentleman hiding behind the women. And if you could give us a little bit of background, and then Josh and Zach, I know they've prepared some questions for you as well that I would like to engage with them because I love spitballing with you. But yeah.
Related to that story, so big picture, we went in 1989, December 20th. It was the raid on Modelo Prison to rescue Kurt Muse, who had been imprisoned as a spy, a CIA spy by the Manuel Noriega. Now, the raid was going to be literally the spearhead of the larger invasion that was going to come in behind us. So, what I mean by that is we were going to go in to Modelo Prison. We were going to assault. We were going to breach. We were going to grab Kurt Muse, and then within 20 minutes thereafter, there was probably 150 aircraft in the air with paratroopers and rangers going to fly over Panama, start dropping soldiers everywhere, and that was the actual invasion. But we had to spearhead it. We needed the element of surprise, so they didn't know we were actually coming. Okay, so originally the operation was supposed to go down at midnight. Okay, on the December 20th. 7 hours prior, our snipers reported back to us that they felt like maybe we'd been compromised because the commandancia, which is the headquarters, and was right behind the prison, so they were next to each other in the same city block area. And so there was a lot of activity. They were shoring up the street corners with machine guns, sandbags, and bringing in vehicles. Reinforced the prison with more soldiers. It had 65 prison guards. I believe they brought in about another 65 soldiers, so they plus it up to about 130. They probably figured we're going to come and get Kurt Muse out. They were expecting a ground assault, not an air assault. So there's a lot of activity, and we got evidence that a couple of guys, a Marine and a soldier, both got on the telephone, called their mommies, and were crying, "Mommy, I might never see you again after tonight. Something's going to happen." Well, that got intercepted by some of the other countries around Noriega that were friends with Noriega, and they said, "Hey, by the way, this is what's going to happen tonight." So they broke operational security, and so loose lips sink ships, and here we are. So now we've been compromised, and now we are going to fly into a hornet's nest, whereas before, it was going to be easy peasy. So they've actually, these guys, I hope they found these guys that made these phone calls, and their asses are still in jail because they risked a lot of lives. A lot of people got hurt, and a lot of people got killed because of them. And so, anyways, what happened was we moved the hit time over 20 minutes, so 0020 hours. That's all we had. We could only move at 20 minutes because the rest of the military was in the air. We couldn't turn them around because they're not on the radar. If they turned around, we'd be compromised. We'd never get a second chance at doing this operation. So all we had is a 20-minute buffer to move to the right a little bit. So we did. Going in on the prison, I remember, we had, because of the weight on the helicopters, we had 15 helicopters. 4 of them were MH6s. They're small little helicopters, look like a little flying egg with the pods on the outside. And you could put 2 operators on each pod on the outside. And anyways, because of the amount of weight, our body armor, I was the lightest guy on this assault force, and I had 70 pounds worth of equipment on. I was one of the breachers as well that blew up the doors to get in to get Kurt. But so we had to strip like avionics out of some of the helicopters to make them lighter so they could land. Actually, 2 of the 4 helicopters, we had to take out 1 pilot each. So we had 2 helicopters with only 1 pilot now. And the weird thing is, the other helicopters had 2 pilots, had 1 pilot get shot in each fucking cockpit of those helicopters. So, like it wasn't our one guy that got shot. So, but we stripped avionics, we took out some of the pilots. And why does that matter? Because we had lower the helicopter on the roof. We had to sink it down very slowly. We couldn't just flare in because it was too heavy and we would have crashed in on the roof. So as we're landing on the roof, imagine 4 stories up and then, probably another 20, 30 feet above the roof, the helicopter's hovering. It's trying to set down. As it was coming down, the gunfight's already started. It's a big firefight everywhere. It's game on at this point. And I remember looking on. I was sitting on the outside pod on the port side of the helicopter, left side, and I saw a group of women, about 5 or 6 women, a couple holding little kids in their arms. They were all clustered together, kind of moving across the street. Across the street was a graveyard. Had one entrance. They had a wall that was probably 4 feet high, and it had a like an arch to go through, the entryway, and they were all moving in that direction. Well, in the middle of this cluster of women and kids was one guy, Panamanian with an AK-47, short paratrooper model, collapsible stock. I still remember him in great detail. He had a white Guayabera on, a white shirt, untucked, blue jeans, brown boots. He was probably about 5'7", probably weighed 185 pounds, black kind of hair over his ears, kind of dumpy looking guy, mustache. I can remember every detail, man, because remember what I said in coaching, man. Your memory is tied to emotion. The more emotional something is, the longer you remember it in greater detail. And so that was obviously a pretty emotional night, pretty exciting night. And I remember as he was moving back in his cluster, he had the weapon upward, and I had the shot, but I'm sitting on a moving helicopter. It's sinking slowly, but I did have a system on the weapon where I felt confident I could take the shot. But what I was concerned about is all I would get was a headshot, and I could take the headshot, but that round would probably go through the head and would probably shoot the man or the woman and baby behind him, right? There's a very good chance I'm going to get 2 or 3 for one with one shot. Or if the helicopter buckled anything and I threw a shot, I might get somebody else, right? So, and I had to weigh it very quickly in my mind. Do I want to take this shot? Is this guy an imminent threat right now? And in that little span of time and space, I concluded he's not a threat yet. Even though the weapon's up, he has it. He's still moving and he's still looking. He's got these big eyes because he's like trying to figure out what in the hell is going on as he's shuffling backwards. But I knew he had intent. It wasn't just at that moment yet. What he needed to do was move before he took that shot. And so somehow I kind of anticipated what would happen. I was hoping it did happen that all the women would go through the gate and they would all go left. And I was hoping, and it did happen, this guy would button hook to the right, and he did, and he came over the wall as I expected with the weapon up, and I knew at that point it's game on, because I knew at that point he was going to shoot, and I was ready for him. So he did. He came up. I took the shot, and that was it. That was a moment where, I would have been justified shooting early, but in my mind, my heart, consciously, I had to make a decision. Is it worth taking that shot right now and risking the life of these babies and these women? Is it worth taking the risk of not shooting and jeopardizing every man on this helicopter and us getting shot down and getting killed? Right? That's a hard decision to make, man. And you got a microsecond to make that decision. Is it going to be us or is it going to be them? And so luckily, I had the presence of mind. I was calm enough that I could think clearly, and I could assess this guy's body language and my experience. My experience, intuition said he's not an immediate threat. Don't pull that trigger just yet, but be ready. If he does crack off a round, just fire. Otherwise, don't shoot yet. And I didn't. And so I maintained that. I kept that reserve that, for that moment until he went around button hooked, and I anticipated it, and then I was prepared for it. So, that's one of those things they can't teach you anywhere. Nobody can teach you, how to react to that moment. And when you're Johnny on the spot, this is where everything comes together. Remember I told you in the training, confidence, coping comes from 4 sources of knowledge. And this is what this was. Confidence and being able to cope with that situation comes from 4 sources of knowledge. One is like formal knowledge or academic knowledge, whether it's reading books, whether it's watching movies, whether it's from lecture. The other one is experiential knowledge, right? Experience, actually being in these types of environments and being able to, my experience says, yay or nay. And then the third one is hypotheses, that educated guess. What do I think is going to happen? And that's what happened. So my knowledge said this, my experience said this. I came up with the hypothesis. He's probably not going to shoot, but he's going to wait till he goes to the gate and he's going to come around. Then he's going to shoot. And that's what my intuition says. Said, Dale, don't pull that trigger yet. Don't pull the trigger yet. Don't pull the trigger yet. And I listen to my intuition because the intuition is always right. The subconscious is always right. Controls 95, 98% of our behavior. It knows everything. And it was saying, don't do it. Don't do it. And I didn't. And I did it when it was right. So, these are critical thinking skills. They're not hard. Most people don't have them because they're lazy. They don't want to learn them. Or they've been brainwashed into believing that, this is some kind of psychobabble and this doesn't work. And then when they want to know why that guy's rich and I'm not, it's because of the way you think. Remember, how you think, that's what it always comes down to, is how do you think. And if, colleges and schools teach you what to think, but they never teach you how to think. And so how to think is something you'd think that it would be. Everybody thinks they knows how to think, but they don't know how to think because because I just take their whole life and lay it out in front of them and go, tell me how your thinking created all this shit, this mess, and tell me how it's going to get better. It's because of what they were thinking and not how they were thinking. And so that scenario that I just described to you, luckily I had the ability to how to think, and I listened to my intuition, and those kids and women hopefully are still alive, but that dude ain't. He's gone. I hope. So I didn't check a pulse later either, but I didn't have time for that shit.
So I'm gonna get Zach and Josh in here with their questions.
Yeah,
Josh, you wanna go?
I'll kick it. Well, first off, I just want to say we appreciate your service, and that's that. But if you were in the shoes of someone that's, around 21, 25, 28, our age, what kind of, I don't know, what would you be doing? I don't know. What kind of advice could you give us, I guess?
Good question, man. You're right. I like these kind of questions. So let's just age of 21. What was I doing at the age of 21? Let me tell you what I was doing at the age of 21. I was a master jump master in 82nd Airborne Division Infantry Long Range Reconnaissance Platoon. My job, one of my additional duties, not my only duty, but my additional duty was literally to run mass tactical airborne operations for the entire battalion. My job was literally to coordinate with the Air Force, get the aircraft online, coordinate with the rigger shed, get the parachutes, go out and actually run what we call pre-jump training, put the entire battalion from the colonel all down to the lowest guy in the unit, practice their parachute landing falls, go through jump procedures, emergency procedures. I had to know it by rote. I can't read a book. I had to basically have it all memorized. And I'm out there putting them through all the training. I had to get them down to what's called green ramp, which is at Pope Air Force Base. I had to put the parachutes on them. I had to inspect every parachute, make sure it's safe, that it was rigged properly, their equipment, their rucksacks, their weapon systems, everything they're going to jump out of an airplane in the middle of the night with. I had to make sure it was on properly. I had to make sure that they had all their safety instructions, that they understood them, that they were trained and prepared to go. I had to get them on the aircraft. We put them on the aircraft. We closed the doors. We turned the red lights on. We took off. We flew through the air at night. And then my job was at the 20-minute warning is tell everybody 20 minutes, get ready, open the aircraft door, hang out the aircraft door, okay, all the way out the aircraft door, looking forward, looking for the drop zone, identifying the drop zone, checking the aircraft, making sure there's nothing out there that's going to hurt anybody that jumps out of the airplane, coming back in, give them a 10-minute warning, standing everybody up, telling everybody to hook up their parachutes, check their equipment, check their static lines, check each other out, check each other's body, get ready. Okay, move up to the door, stand right there, stand what you got, open the door again, keep looking outside. And when I saw the what we call the IP, the initial point, they call them pips. There's different names for them, but basically the release point. As soon as I knew that it was over, I counted 10 seconds. It was going to take 10 seconds before we crossed that. Step back in, tell first jumper, stand at the door, stand by, and go. I put everybody out of the aircraft. After the last man was out, I looked at the aircraft load master. Air Force, the door is yours. And out the door I went, and my job was over. Okay, that would take all day to do. At the age of 21 years old, I don't know how old you guys are, but how many 21-year-old guys have that kind of responsibility in their life? All these people's lives are in my hand. That's just the success or failure of that jump operation was in this 21-year-old kid's hands. Okay, if it goes bad or it goes good, it's on my fucking shoulders. And guess what? I wasn't the only 21-year-old. I was one of many 21-year-olds and 20 years old. I was 20 when I actually got my jump master rating. Okay, I just used 21 because you brought the number 21. So basically, I was 20 years old when I'm doing this. All right, and I wasn't the only one. This was quite common in the 82nd Airborne Division, the Ranger Battalion, for a 21-year-old jump master to run an airborne operation at a battalion size, at least 4 companies. 500 people. My job was to put them out of an airplane in the middle of the night, doing 130, 140 knots, okay, at 800 feet AGL, and getting everybody out safely. Now, that's what I was doing at the age of 20, 21, okay, and more. Okay, that was just one aspect of my job. And guess what? I was an infantry guy. My specialty was digging foxholes and filling them back up, and then cleaning my rifle under a freaking tree. So it was squeaky clean, and shining my boots. And saying yes sir, no sir, and I could do lots of push-ups. Okay, that's what an infantry guys were required to know. Dude, my job was to stop bullets and fucking deliver bullets, right? But in order to deliver those bullets, I got to deliver guys out of airplanes to deliver the bullets. So what would I tell guys today is, let me tell you something, man. If you're playing video games, put that shit down. That ain't doing nothing for you. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday. Actually, I'm coaching a guy right now. He went to go to SEALs, the Buds. He's actually in the Navy. He's actually on an aircraft carrier right now. So I'm actually coaching him on an aircraft carrier. So I said, by proxy, I'm actually on an aircraft carrier, which is kind of cool. So I got a little bit of bragging rights. But, and we had this conversation about video games. And he was like, yeah, all in the video games. I go, what is that doing for you? What are you getting back from that? What's the return on investment? There is no ROI on that. None. Zero. Nothing. Only thing you're getting out of it is gratification. I mean, that's all you're getting. What's it doing for you? How's it helping you? How's it making you better? It's making nothing. It's warping your freaking head. Okay, it's not reality. I don't care how good those freaking games are. They're not reality. Just because you can play, these goddamn war games doesn't mean you're a freaking soldier, and doesn't mean you're going to do well in combat either. I can tell you there's a big difference between combat and video games. When somebody's trying to kill you, okay, you throw that in there, yeah, that changes everything. Okay. So what I would tell you, the young guys out there and the girls out there, find your purpose in life. What is your purpose? And start working on that now, because time flies, man. And when you start having fun, which I do because I've enjoyed my life and it's just zipping by. I'm 60 years old right now. And I'm like, damn, where did the time go? Time went by quick because I was freaking happy. I've been doing wonderful things. Been successful. I've lived the life fulfilled many times over. I know there's been times when I've had bad days and it seemed like just time just dragged on. It's like, goddamn, can I just get through this shit, because that's how it works. But when you're having fun, it goes by fast. So I don't know, man. You got a choice. You can live a fast, fun life, or you can live a slow, miserable life. I'll take the fast, fun life every time. So get your purpose, get your life in order, find your purpose, and get to it. So take responsibility. That's the problem with the generation today. They can't take the responsibility. They're not accountable. They don't want to be accountable. It's everybody else's fault they're fat. It's everybody else's fault they're a derelict. It's everybody else's fault they're stupid. It's everybody else's fault they can't find a job. But they never take responsibility for their own failures. Okay. Look, I'm a guy. My dad was 17 when he joined the Army. He had 11th grade education. My mom had a 9th grade education. Nobody on either side of my family's had a college education. Nobody. Zero. I was white trash, man, basically. That's it, man. My dad was in the Army. He's a good man. But he had 11th grade education. We had no money. Okay. I had the opportunity to go to college. You wanted to send me to college? And I said, no, Dad, you know what? You work hard enough bringing me up this far, and I'm not going to put that burden on you. Take that money, you spend it on you and Mom, and enjoy your life, and I'll be out of your way. Let me make my own way, and I'll go to college. I promised him I'd go to college. I joined the Army. I wanted to be in the Army because he was in the Army for 20 years. I love the military culture. I love growing up in it. It's so different from the civilian culture that I missed. I couldn't wait to get back into it. I did the same thing. When I was 17 years old, I enlisted in the Army. I went right in after I joined high school. I didn't just want to, go in and I remember I went to the recruiter's office, and when I went there, the recruiter laid all the stuff out, on radios and all kind. At the time we didn't even have computers then, but radios and all this other electronic crap, and he's preaching, pitching it to me, and I'm looking at him like, I go, what about Rangers? And he's like, huh? And he just wipes the desk clean and pulls out a little pamphlet with a Ranger dude on it, fucking patrol cap and, fast rappel ropes. And I go, that's it. That's what I want to do. I was an easy sell, man. I just want to be a knuckle dragger and kill people, man. I don't want to freaking touch radios and do stupid shit like that. So I went in. So I went into the Army. I ended up in the 82nd Airborne Division Infantry Company, Long Range Reconnaissance. I went to Special Forces. I was a Green Beret. I was a Delta Force operator. I did all the hard shit in the military. I didn't have time off. I didn't get to fly a desk and flip hamburgers and go to school at night. Any schooling I got, I had to do it on my own time. And I had to make that time. I had to burn the midnight oil. I had to sacrifice some sleep. I had to sacrifice my lunch. I had to do a lot of things. And by the way, I was married too with kids, okay? But I did it anyways. When I retired of the Army, I had my master's degree. I already finished my master's degree. And where the hell did you do that? That's right. Where in the hell did I do all that? I did it. I made it work. I earned my PhD downrange. I was in the CIA for 9.5 years. I got my doctoral degree downrange in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places in the world where I was shooting bad guys in the face. If I wasn't doing that, I was in my room studying. If I wasn't doing that, I was in the gym lifting weights. And if I wasn't doing that, I was in the chow hall grabbing some food. And if I wasn't doing that, I was in bed sleeping. But basically, I maximized every hour of my day. In 17 months, I got my doctoral degree. I put the work in. I was focused. I have purpose in life, and I still have purpose. And so, what I'm saying, I guess, at the end of the day is, I wasn't an exceptional person. And if you don't think you're an exceptional person, so what? You are the person that you say you are. I am. Who are you? Are you a loser? Are you a deadbeat? Are you a derelict? Are you a criminal? Are you a drug addict? What are you? You play video games every day. Is that how you're defined? Or are you going to be defined as something else and define yourself? And it starts right now. In the here and now, I am this. I am successful. I am going to be great. I'm going to do wonderful things. I'm going to have a happy life. It starts with you and what you think, and not what everybody else thinks about you, or any of the limitations people try to put on you, or your circumstances. Okay, those are all convenient excuses. Get rid of the excuses. Stop making excuses and focus on what you want and just do it. Just do it. It's that simple. It's got nothing to do with willpower, by the way, either. That's another one. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this. No, you got to imagine what you want. Imagine what you want like it's actually happening, like you're living it right now. And this is what Kemper said earlier, man. You got to, it's literally in your heart. You feel it in your heart. When you feel the future, you feel who you want to be right now. You feel it, man. It's like, wow. And if you feel it every day, you eventually manifest it. You become that person. I have become the person I want. I'll use Stu Peterson's, one of his sayings, it says, become a monster, be a monster, be a big badass monster, right? And then learn how to control it. Dude, I'm a monster? No, I'm King Kong, man. I've spent my whole life learning, being the best I can. I've tried everything many times over. And I don't just try it, man. I try to be good at it. I master it. And I master many things at one time. Not one thing at a time, but many things at one time. This is why my resume, my bios is so freaking expansive. And people go, how the hell did you do all that stuff? It wasn't because of what I was thinking. It wasn't because of something people gave me. It was how I was thinking. I was driven with purpose, man. I sacrificed nothing. I had a good time. I've done everything more than once. I've tried everything more than once. In fact, the scariest thing about my life is I'm running out of shit to do. I'm like, what do I do now? I did everything else. So I have to keep adding stuff to the bucket list, So I've flown a helicopter, but I haven't flown a fixed-wing aircraft yet. So that's on my bucket list. I want to fly fixed-wing. What else? Oh, yeah, I want to play the guitar. I've got like 3 guitars. I haven't started playing any of them yet because I've got other stuff I'm still doing, but eventually I'm going to get to playing the guitar. I want to learn how to play guitar. There's a lot of things I want to do, and I just keep adding stuff to the bucket list, and I feel like as long as I can do that, it's going to keep me going. It's kind of like a shark in the water, man. You got to keep moving water over your gills, otherwise you die. And that's kind of how I am. I got to keep moving and moving because if I don't, and I become sedentary like a lot of guys do my age, they die. They die sooner than they're supposed to, and the body's designed to keep moving. It's designed to be active, man, in a perpetual state of movement, not sitting on your ass playing video games. Come on, you guys are dying at the age of 20 playing video games. Stop it. Leave that
I
shit
want to fly out of this bed right fucking now. I'm so okay.
I want to go to the fucking gym.
Get your ass up. Get to work.
And
I want to go to the fucking gym right now.
Okay. So one of the things I want to say, other than thank you, see, y'all just touched inspiration, right? You are also a product of great men that you got to meet along the way. And so I want to hear from you, Dale, about some of your bad days, because the days that you've told me about, like when you were laying in the jungle on that log, that's a good story to let people know about, because if you think that he got this way with no adversity, you got it fucking wrong. It's that adversity cannot stop someone that is bigger in here and bigger in here, because this can grow and it will. I'm telling you. See, one day I'll have a Comstock arm. Okay, right now I have, you know what I'm saying? But that's gonna
Gun
come with
show.
time. It's already done up here, baby, and it's just coming to pass. But I want to hear about some of the people that helped mentor you, some of the things that they taught you about um the warrior spirit, because it seems to me that that's what keeps us alive, you know? And that's what we need to stoke this fire of our imagination with, to keep going, because everyone says, "Oh, they don't want you to." You see it all over fucking internet right now. And it's they shouldn't live in your head. You live in your head. There aren't any roadblocks, there aren't problems, because you're right, they're challenges. Because we have to, this is a thought I had the other day. We have to come to peace with the nature of war. This world will always be in conflict. Conflict is the gateway to you becoming what you want. And on the other side of that adversity is a beautiful level. But the problem with our minds is that we don't observe ourselves enough to realize once we master one level, we try to cling to this next understanding. Because once you change one thing, everything else changes, right? And we live in this world of duality, right? So, in order for something to be beautiful, something has to be ugly, right? And we're put here to decide that for ourselves. But whether we call it beautiful or ugly, we're blocking out what it truly is. And in life, you need to learn how to accept what is in order to be able to make that decision consciously. It's no virtuous thing if you're a pussy that is docile and can't hurt somebody to be a peaceful person. It's virtuous to be a powerful man and understand the pain that it takes to become gentle, you know?
So, um, yeah, interesting. So, mankind has experienced about 12,000 wars since the dawn of man. So
Mm-hmm.
we are the warring ape, and I use that quote from Le Bon, Gustave Le Bon. He's a French philosopher. But so with that said, all success begins with a struggle as well, right? So, and when I say success, whether it's the positive outcome of wars and things like that, it's going to start with a struggle. Hopefully, it ends with something from the desired success. But um, nothing's ever going to be easy, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? So, and that's the problem, right? Again, I'll quote Jeremy Bentham, philosopher from 1750, and he said, hedonistic utilitarianism. That is how he defined the condition, the human condition. And what he was saying was, men pursue pleasure and avoid pain. That's our goal, right? We don't want to do the hard shit. We want to do the easy shit, pleasurable shit, right? And so, you know, and therein is the issue, because everybody wants to take the easy route. No one wants to do the hard work. Nobody wants to do the hard work of starting a business, okay, and taking the risk and taking the chance. You want to go the easy way. Let me work for you and give me more of your money because I work for you, because I'm special. Because without me, you wouldn't have a company. It's all this bullshit. Human beings are always looking for the easy way out. And that's the dumb masses I was talking about. And I say the dumb masses, I mean even those with college educations and doctorates and PhDs and scientists. They fall right into that freaking category. There's a huge difference between academic intelligence and effective intelligence. And you don't have to have a college degree for effective intelligence. Just think of it as common sense, street smarts, okay? And most people are lacking that shit. But moving forward, nothing's easy, right? So we've got to put the work in. But if we make the work something we enjoy, then really it becomes, it doesn't become, it becomes a passion of a passion of labor. It's no longer work because you like doing it, right? So honestly, I've never worked a day in my life. That's no shit. The 20 years I was in the Army, yeah, that was some hard shit. That was very hard, okay? Very dangerous, very painful. But I enjoyed every minute of it, you know, every freaking minute of it. I look back at my dad when he got out of the Army in his 50s. He's like, man, son, if I could go back in the Army today, I'd go back in. And I thought, are you crazy? You're 50 years old. Why would you want to go back in the Army? Because that's hard. But now I know what he's talking about. I'm 60 years old going, damn, if I could go back in the Army, I'd go back in the Army. I don't want to lose the money that I make now and stuff, but, you know, damn, I miss the Army. And I never really worked in it. Now that I look back, it's like, that was the funniest shit ever, man. And since that time I got out of the Army, I've never worked for anybody. I've worked as a subcontractor, but technically I was always my own boss in charge of my own destiny. And I like that sovereignty. But
Didn't you
know,
break your back?
what's
Didn't
that?
you quite literally break your back in the Army?
Fragged. I've got broken backs and bones and fucking head injuries, all kinds of shit from being in the Army. I'm 80% disabled. I should be 100%, but right now I'm still 80%. But I'll probably get to 100% soon. But yeah, I did break my back. I broke my back in a helicopter crash. You know, I've got fragmentation wounds in my legs. I've got, you know, all kinds of shit that's going on with me. But you know, again, thanks to my military service, I'm not mad. It's the risk that I had taken. But I want to address real quick the mentors, the 5 mentors, my 5 mentors. You mentioned mentorship. So yeah, you know, I did have mentors in my life, and this is the other thing that's lacking out there, man. Most men, young men, don't have mentors out there. Who you gonna look up to? You know, you gonna look at this fat ass guy over here that's fat ass, right? That doesn't do shit, but he's, you know, whatever. He's your old man, or you know, whatever. Who are you looking up to these days? You're looking at Hollywood stars. They're a bunch of plastic people too, man. They got no substance. They're all image. There's no substance there. None of them. Who are you looking up to? And that's the problem is we're losing heroes. We're losing mentors in the world, right? Especially in America, particularly in America. You know, here's my mentors, man. I had 5. My first one was my father. Yeah, man. My dad was my mentor. My dad was my only dad all my life. He and my mom were married for 57 years, right? And he was a soldier as well, 20 years. And he was a good man. He was a fair man, right? And a lot of his military leadership traits that he had learned, he instilled on me and my family and used and applied it to our family. And that's why our family, we weren't regimented like the Army, but because of his own regimentation, I guess, you know, his military discipline, it carried over to our family, man. And we had a good family because of that. My mom and dad were married for 57 years until he passed away. So my father was my hero. He was my guiding light the entire time. When I joined the Army, every weekend I would call my dad up until the day he died in 2012. Literally, from 1981 to 2012, I called my dad every weekend. Hey, Dad, how you doing? You know, and a lot of times I called him because I had issues. Like, Dad, this happened. What do I do? And my dad was always there. He always had answers. He always had guidance for me, man. He was my leader. And, man, and tell you what, made a big difference in my life, man. Big difference in my life. When he died, I'm thinking, fuck, who am I going to call now? And then I realized, you don't call anybody. You're it. You're it. You're the one who's everybody's going to call now. You better have your shit together. You're the leader, right? You're the patriarch. And so here I am, right? I have to fulfill that role. My second mentor was my grandfather. On my German side, my grandfather over there. I grew up in Germany, spent a lot of time living with my grandparents, and same thing, right? Very, very strong man, very honest, very deliberate, very hardworking, very fair. You know, he was a good example for me. He was not the kind of guy that sat around drinking beer and fucking off. He built a small business out of his garage that has turned into a major corporation in Germany that my uncle and my cousins now operate. A big company. I'm like multimillionaires, man. Like, holy shit. And he built it out of his garage, man. And so I learned a lot from my grandfather and from my uncle. All right. My uncle was like, man, I was like one of my uncle's sons. He'd take me on vacation and he taught me how to swim, all kinds of stuff, man. And I always look at him, and again, for the example of how to be a father and a mentor, and how to raise men. He didn't coddle me. You know, he didn't coddle his sons, my cousins. They fucked up. He'd smack them on the head and tell them to straighten it up. You know, it's a whole different era. Even my grandfather knocked the shit out of me if I had it coming you know, and I was okay with that. You know, I'm not a bad guy because of that. I'm not a psychopath or a murderer. You know, I'm a good person because it taught me, you know, they taught me those things about discipline, and I was also held accountable for my actions, and that included physical punishment, which I'm okay with that shit. My other mentors was a guy named Gary O'Neill. You can look him up. He wrote a book called American Warrior. Now, Gary O'Neill, I met him back in 1982 at the Survival Evasion Resistance Escape School in Camp McCall, Fort Bragg, which is the home of Special Forces training. At the time, my LRP platoon, we went out there. It was winter time, and we're going to go through the SEER course and learn how to do survival stuff, right? Field survival, blah, 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 blah. And so in the morning, very early in the morning, I mean, it was super cold there all the time in North Carolina in the wintertime. And we went out to what's called a sawdust pit. It's a large round pit full of about 6 or 8 inches of sawdust. And it was sandbagged in, so they kept it all contained. And basically, that's where we did hand-to-hand training, right, in the morning. So we'd go out there, and everybody's freezing and shit. You know, we're all a bunch of young paratroopers, infantry guys, scouts. And we're going to get this training from this guy named Gary O'Neill, Sergeant O'Neill. So Sergeant O'Neill comes out, and he's a Vietnam vet. Didn't know a whole lot about him, but learned really quickly that this guy had been in 77 ambushes in Vietnam, survived all of them. This guy was a badass. He was a living legend. Not only him, but there was a couple other guys that he ran around with. Another one's called a guy named Enchantis. Enchantis was killed in Nicaragua in a mysterious helicopter explosion. We think he was assassinated. And he hung around with another friend of mine, another guy named Jim West, who I'll explain later on as well, who his role in my life. But so Gary O'Neill was a guy that we didn't know anything about him. So the first thing he talks about in the morning was mindset, right? You know, pretty much, I don't mind, you don't matter. And you can do anything if you have the right mindset. So we're like, okay, what does that mean? And so he takes out a bicycle spoke, right? Pulls the skin out of his neck and drives this bicycle spoke through his neck. I'm like, holy shit. And then he picks up a bucket of water with a rope on it, wraps it around this bicycle spoke, picks it up, and starts swinging it around with his neck. And I, whoa, we're like, what the shit? And then he takes more bicycle spokes, sticks them through his arms, right? Does the same thing, picks up 2 more water buckets with ropes, and he's holding them up in the air, and he's swinging them around and stuff. And then he lays down, and a guy drives over his stomach with a Jeep. And we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, this guy was like crazy, man. But basically what he was trying to tell us was, if you got the right mindset, you can do anything, you know. And then we started learning about his combat experience. Like, damn, this dude is badass, man. Walked out of 77 close ambushes in Vietnam. Here's the better part of the story. The guy joined the Army at the age of 15. He falsified his records. Okay, he falsified it. He took his cousin's birth certificate and joined on his cousin's birth certificate. In the first 6 months, at the age of 15, he won his first Silver Star. Won the first Silver Star. This guy was seeing all kinds of combat. So when you ask the question about 20, 21-year-olds, think about this guy. He's 15 years old, slinging lead downrange, man. Okay, and so he spent time in Vietnam. Then it was found out who he was, right? And he got kicked out of the Army, and like, bad boy, don't ever come back, you know. And well, what they didn't know is his mom worked for the draft board, and she did some paperwork drills and got him back in the Army. He came back in the Army. He was still in the Army and became a legend in the U.S. Army. Green Beret, LRP, Ranger. He developed what's called a silent sentry takeout technique, basically how to take out sentries. His job was to go up in North Vietnam and basically do close surveillance, close target reconnaissance. And a lot of times that involved him having to cut throats on sentries. And he came up with a technique for that, which was really interesting. We got a lot of that training on how to cut a guy's throat from behind without him knowing about it and shit. And so I looked at this guy in total awe, man. I'm like, wow, this guy is everything I want to be as a soldier. I mean, this guy is really Johnny Rambo 10X. It was amazing. I mean, he's got a book out called American Warrior. Well, when I wrote my book, American Badass, I didn't know he was writing the book American Warrior. Our books came out at the same time. I go, hey. And I'm like, wow, how cool is that? My mentor wrote the book American Warrior, and I wrote the book American Badass, you know? And it's just, I thought it was really kind of cool, right? But his book's out there. It's a good book to read, very interesting. But he was my military mentor. He's the guy I basically modeled my career after. I said, if I'm going to be a soldier, I want to be this kind of a soldier. And so my entire military career was centered on being the best guy I could be. Green Beret, Delta Force operator, explosives, hand-to-hand, LRPs, on and on and on and on. I wanted to be the best soldier I could be. I want to be Johnny Rambo 10X2, man, you know. And so he was my inspiration. I still know him to this day. He's getting older. By the way, he's Sioux Indian. Yeah, he's Sioux Indian. Yeah, check that out. He's a Sioux Indian on top of that, man. But he's the coolest guy you'll ever get to know, man. Just funnier than shit. Very smart. Did a lot of things in the military. Like I said, he's a living legend. Unfortunately, he's getting up there in age, and hopefully he's around a little bit longer, at least one more time for me to go see him. And then my next mentor was a guy named Jim Smokey West. You can Google him as well. Jim West was my martial arts instructor. He was also a Green Beret. And basically, long story short, I got involved with him because of my son. My son was 4 years old, and he liked the Ninja Turtles. I asked my kid, "You want to learn how to do karate like the Ninja Turtles?" He goes, "Yes, I do." I ended up taking him to Jim West, and by the time my son was 7 years old, he has first degree black belt. And I decided, well, hell, if I'm going to bring my kid to this training, why don't I just show up with him and do it too, right? So before you know it, it became a family affair. We're all doing karate training. And I ended up getting 2 6th-degree black belts to Jim and a first-degree black belt. I was one of his only fighters. He had 2 fighters. I was one of 2. The other one was a chick. Jim had the kind of school of where you don't get a black belt by doing katas and forms and reciting shit. You got a black belt by getting in the ring or going into a dojo at night, locking the doors with another instructor and his black belts and literally having a street fight. That's how you got your black belt. That's how I earned my black belt. I didn't do it by going, Kia, Kia. I got it by beating the shit out of people. And so did my kids, by the way. Same thing. Behind closed doors, they had to go in there and literally, it's a street fight to earn their belts. You can do karate shit all day long in a dojo, and it looks pretty damn good when you got pads and shit on. But go into a dojo and close the doors and go in there and now actually fight like you would on the street. And let's see what you know. Therein is the difference, right? And that's what we went through, and that's why I was only one of 2 fighters Jim has ever had. I'm the one of only 2 black belts he's ever, or one of only 3 black belts he's ever turned out, including my son. And so Jim is a hard-nosed dude, and he either likes you or you don't, and you either like him or you don't. I looked at it like this. I'm not going to Jim for my morals and anything like that. I'm going to Jim for one thing, because he is the best fighter I've ever come across. This guy is scary bad. And I said, if I want to learn how to fight, I want to learn from the best guy out there. And I went to the right guy. To this day, I think he's 68 now, and he will still hand me my ass, man. And I'm pretty damn good, and he's still hand me my ass. And so those are 5 of my mentors. There's one more mentor. I kind of put him in the club a few years ago. His name's David Fabricius. He's a former South African Special Forces guy. He came to the United States on a special visa. Just a smart guy. He had a very interesting story. He slept on the streets of Las Vegas for a couple years when he came to the United States. Like, how'd that fucking work out for you? But anyways, today he's a top international performance coach for corporate 500 companies. He makes knives. He does all kinds of shit. But the guy's like super smart on marketing and business. And it just woes me sometimes. He actually was my coaching client. He came to me for coaching, And now I look at him and and he calls me to this day. He still calls me coach, And I'm like, damn, But you're one of my mentors, man. I've learned a lot from you, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Hey, boy, you're one of my. I might be your coach, but you're my mentor, man. So I have 6 that have really impacted my life in a way that has made the difference. I have learned a lot of stuff, the good and the bad, and I am an amalgamation of the good and the bad, the good and the bad in life. So I am who I am because of what I have learned from the others, the good stuff and the bad stuff, the things to do and the things not to do. And here I am. This is what I am. I am what I am. Said Sam, I am.
Can you give us a couple stories of maybe some people that gave you a good run for your money, either in hand to hand, or maybe some situations? Are there any even?
Only guy that would give me a run for my money in a fight is Jim West. He trained me, but he put me on Queer Street before. He can hit it, man. He's like a truck. But I probably give him a pretty good run for his money now. He knows that too, man. But from there, fighting, that's the only guy, man. I've had over street fights, and the only guys that gave me a right run for my money were 5 guys one night. They all jumped me, and so it's 5 guys. I'm only that good, right? So, and I was young too, so maybe today might be a different story. As far as on a professional level, there's nobody out there that's got my resume, my bios, my background. Nobody. And not saying they're not better than me. There are guys that can shoot better than me. There are guys that can run faster than me. Guys that can lift more weights than me. You know, there are guys that are better looking than me. Guys got a bigger dick than me. You know, of course, you know, there's limitations, but as a collective, as a whole, there's nobody that's in my class. Nobody, guaranteed. Nobody. Nobody's got my my resume and my experience. You know, they may have a lot of things, but altogether, no. And I'm not bragging. It's just that's the reality of it. And the reason I'm aware of that is because years ago, people kept looking at my bios and my resume, going, "How did you do all these things?" You know, and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Do all these things?" I actually just thought I was keeping up with the Jones. You know, I thought I was keeping up with all the other Delta Force operators. I'm like, what? And then I started looking harder. I go, yeah, I guess maybe I did do a little bit more than everybody else. You know, am I an overachiever? No, I'm a high achiever. And but that's part of the DNA. That's part of who I was as a Delta Force operator. That was what's ingrained in us as a Delta Force operator. And a lot of guys from the unit are like that, man. They're high achievers, man. They have done a lot of shit. I've seen guys go out and go to med school, come back and be a Delta Force operator, not even as an officer, as an enlisted guy. I see guys go, lawyers come back, you know. It's like, damn, you know. I got one friend, I thought he was dumb as a rock, right? And a good operator. And next thing I know, he got 4 master's degree. I'm like, oh, holy shit, man. I got to get on the stick, you know. These are the kind of people I was raised around, that I worked around. You know, and in a lot of ways have shaped my purpose and my way of thinking. But at the end of the day, nothing happens if you don't want it to happen. Nothing happens if you don't imagine it. Nothing happens if you don't dream it and you lust for it and you thirst for it, and that's all you can think of. If you don't do that, nothing happens. Nothing falls in your lap. Nothing just shows up when it's in its due time. You got to go and get it, and nothing happens. If you'll just sit here and languish all your life, little victories here and there, and you're going to wonder, why the hell can't I get up that hill? You change how you think. You know, you're walking around the valley of death, man. You're going to die off with all the other failures in life. You know, you're never going to make it to the top with that attitude. You know, you got to do what? You've got to go down the hard, painful route. Hedonistic utilitarianism. Embrace it. Embrace the suck, and that'll get you to the top. If you try to avoid all that shit, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And if something good does happen, it won't last. You'll wreck it. You'll ruin it because you don't have the mindset to keep it.
Zach, jump on in. I know you got a couple that are good in there.
So this is kind of going back to a few different things that we can cover in one question. In terms of the state of the world in general, America specifically, but also going back to that scenario that you talked about with the guy that was surrounded by all the women, and your ability to have amazing situational awareness and readiness to act on it. What type of advice would you give to somebody who hasn't experienced combat, so specifically towards civilian life, um, where they could use that type of situational awareness and readiness for just general everyday life or specific situations that they might run into in life?
Good question. And here's the answer. All right, there is an answer. So a lot of my clients that come to me, so I have 3 demographics, men between 45 and 59, the old man clan. You know, I always say they put the kids in college, put the roof over their head. Now mom doesn't want to talk to them because the kids are gone, you know, and the guys look in the mirror going, fuck, I'm 9 months pregnant. You know, how to recover and recapture my life. And these guys never had fights in their life because they never did anything in their life because they fell into the trap of, you know, I'm a family man, you know, and I got to take care of the family. But they neglected themselves as men, right? And so this is an important thing for all young guys out there, man. Do manly shit. Do not give up your sovereignty for love, okay? If a woman loves you, you know, she'll accept you for what you are and the things you want to do in life. My wives, I said wives plural because I've had lots of them. They have never kept me from doing what I wanted to do. But anyways, my second demographic is men between 33, 37, entrepreneurial types. And then the other group is 19 to 26-year-old men that either are in the military or want to go into military special operations. So, so going back to, okay, why did I bring that up? Because what I found is, particularly with the older guys and the non-military guys, you know, I got to teach them survival learning skills. Okay. For example, when you go out, no, I'll just ask you guys, man. Let's say you go to a restaurant. When you go into a restaurant and you get to sit anywhere you want, where would you sit down in a restaurant? You get to sit anywhere you want.
In the back, facing the door.
So, all right, so that's kind of this mindset, right? You'd be surprised how many guys don't know that. So I tell them, okay, sit with your back against the wall, know where all the exits and entry points are. Go ahead and scan the room, look for all military age males. Take a look at their around the waistline, see if you can see a weapon handle sticking out. Look for pocket folders; they may have that. Looking for anyone that might be a potential threat, or if even it could be a teenage kid, right? Look for how am I going to get out of here? What am I going to do? Okay, if something were to happen right now, what would be my response? I'll tell you what mine is. I always carry a gun. My response would be is to get up, draw my weapon at the same time, move away from my table because I want to draw fire away from my kids and family, and I'm going to shoot and move at the same time. I'm going to close the gap on the threat and not take them out. All right, I already know what my plan is. It's already mentally rehearsed. It's stored in the long term memory, and break glass in emergency, and I execute. So what I teach guys is what it's called the OODA loop, okay, and the Cooper's color codes of readiness. Okay, you can look stuff up like this. What is the OODA loop? Okay, OODA loop is this: observe. You have to be observant. Okay, that means when you go into a restaurant, sit down. You're not sitting down texting, and everybody at the table's texting. Like, go to any restaurant. Everybody at the table's texting. Everybody's texting, and nobody's talking. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody, no environmental awareness. They're all freaking literally asleep at the table. Okay, is that safe? No. How are you gonna? Who's got the advantage? You or the bad guy that comes in with a gun? The bad guy does every time because you're not paying attention. You're completely unaware. So observe. You got to be observant. Okay. As soon as you see something that you think that ain't right, you have to orient. What is orient? Okay, like in my case, I just described it. I see a gun come out, a dude pop up on the table. He's getting ready to start shooting people. I've seen that. I see what's happening. I already know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna orient. In other words, I'm gonna get up and remove myself from my table so that I don't draw fire on my kids, but I draw attention to me as I'm moving, and I'm gonna be returning fire as I move. Okay, I'm orienting now. Okay, now maybe this guy on a weapon yet, but I've deemed him a threat for whatever reason. Now I've got to decide what am I gonna do. Maybe the guy stands up and he doesn't have the weapon up, but he has a weapon down by his side, just hold it straight up and down. Okay, maybe he's a cop. Maybe he's a guy that saw somebody else with a gun and he was getting react to it, and I just happen to see him with the gun. Okay, what do I do? Okay, so now I go through courses of action. Okay, I do this, or I can do that, or I can do that. I select this course of action, whatever it's going to be. It's going to be quick, and then I act on it. So this is where we go from observe, orient, make a decision, and act. This whole technique stems from World War II, actually the Korean War, fighter pilots. They had to figure out a way how to get ahead of other fighter pilots, right? And so the goal is to put your adversary into your OODA loop. You do something and make him respond. Go, oh, what did he just do? Oh, he's doing this. Now I got to do that. And so he's always one step behind you, okay? And that's what we're talking about on an OODA loop. Always make sure you're controlling the situation. It's not controlling you. Impose your will on the adversary. Don't let him impose it on you. In other words, put them in your OODA loop, not be in their OODA loop. Okay. So what does that require? It requires awareness. Okay. It means get your head out of the damn cell phone. It means get your head on a swivel, moving around. While I'm walking down the street, you can damn believe I'm looking down the road, down the sidewalk. I'm looking for dead space, alleyways. I'm looking for anybody that could potentially be a threat. Anybody that's acting kind of weird. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm looking back and forward to my left and right. And some people, why are you so paranoid? It's not called paranoia. It's being observant. There's a big difference, right? And you go ahead and call that paranoia. Just keep looking straight ahead. And you know what? I'm going to call you a victim because that's all you are. You're going to attack me because I'm an idiot. I'm not paying attention. I lived in Hong Kong. 7 million people in Hong Kong. Okay? You know it's like walking down the sidewalk or the street walk with 7 million people on the road all doing this, texting at the same time. And they're moving like zombies in your way. And you got a purpose. Man, it's frustrating as hell. That's 7 million potential victims is what that was. Okay? And so every guy out there, man, you need to be heads up. You need to focus. You need to orient. You need to know what your purpose in life is. You need to have a protective mindset. Okay? It's not paranoia, it's protective mindset, defensive mindset. You know, you need to be aware of your environment because it's constantly going to change. As long as you're moving, the environment is changing. Environmental conditions are changing. So you got to be aware of all those things all the time. Otherwise, you're going to get caught by surprise. When you get caught by surprise, you're now in someone else's OODA loop. Guess what? You're losing. You're losing. And depending on the tenets of combat, surprise, speed, and violence of action, If they are now imposing surprise, speed, and violence of action, you're in their freaking trap, man, and you're probably gonna go down. All right. So that's the first thing. Second one is, and this is simple, right? Very simple. Be aware and have a plan. A simple plan. What if a guy were to do this? What would I do? Just think of a quick plan. It might not be the right plan, might not be the best plan, but it's a plan. At least you're doing something, and you're not sitting there going, "Oh shit, what do I do now?" Because that's called stress shock phenomena. Okay, the deer in the headlights moment. All right, startle reflex. Go, I don't know what to do because you got caught off guard. Right, you don't know what to do, and so what are you? A victim again. But if you have a plan, hey, a guy jumps out from around the corner with a knife. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna run away. At least you have a plan. You're doing something. You're not standing there trying to figure it out on the X. Okay. Um,
That was
next,
perfect time. That ringtone was perfect timing, man.
yeah, I got my daughter's trying to call me. No big deal. And the second part of it is Cooper's color codes of readiness, right? So what is that? So you have 5 conditions that you should be in, right? And these are nothing more than mental constructs to think about to help you with your self-awareness. So, for example, condition white. You should never be in condition white. What is condition white? This, condition white. That's condition white. This is condition white. Okay, you're totally oblivious to what's going on around you. You're not focused. You're not aware of anything, right? You never want to be in condition white. Most people are in condition white. Okay, you want to be in the next color, which is color yellow. Condition yellow. Condition yellow. Condition yellow is a heightened state of awareness. Okay, a heightened state of awareness. In other words, my head's up. I'm looking around. I'm sizing the situation up. I'm looking at people. I'm checking out their hands. I'm looking at their belt line. They have a knife, a weapon, a gun. I'm looking at their mannerisms. I'm looking up. I'm always aware of what's going on. That's condition yellow. I'm in condition yellow all the time, all the time. That's where we want to be. That's not paranoia. That's just being alert. Okay, that means you just have to put the phone down and stop texting. You know, and if you got a text, okay, make sure somebody else is not on the phone texting at the same time. They're paying attention. Then the next color is condition orange. What is condition orange? All right, condition is a heightened state of alertness, not awareness, but alertness. Okay. Example for that: you leave the house, you come back later on, and you go to open the door, and it's like, hey, the door's open. I thought I locked it. I thought I closed it, but it's cracked open. Somebody in the house? It's just me. I just live there. Did I forget? Right? So you go through, you're processing all this information, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to call the cops because what they showed me, I just didn't lock the door. Then I look like an idiot, right? So most dudes will go in the house, right? Now, I would advise women, go with your gut feeling. If your instinct says don't go in there, call the cops. And I would tell most guys, same thing. If you're not prepared for what might be on the other side of the door, get some help. I'm always prepared. I'm always carrying a weapon. So I come up in that scenario going, you know what? I'm pretty sure I locked that door, but in case I didn't, you know, I'll be ready for it. So what I'm going to do is draw my weapon. Weapon's out. It's in condition number 3. I'm going to open that door. I'm not going to just walk in. I'm going to walk in, open the door. I'm going to scan. I'm going to listen. Look for anything out of place. Sense anything out of place. Nothing's happening. Check behind the door. I'm going to walk in, and I'm going to systematically clear my house. And I'm going to keep moving. Now I'm in condition orange. So if there is a threat, I'm ready for it. Okay, clear the whole house out. Nothing. I guess I did forget to lock the door. Guns away. However, as I'm clearing my house, all of a sudden I hear noise in my back bedroom. There's somebody in the back bedroom. Oh shit. Game on now. So now I got another issue. I'm going to go back there. I got a choice. Get out and call the cops, or I can go deal with this thing. Okay? I'm going to go deal with this thing. I go back and open the door, and there's a guy standing there. He's holding, let's just say he's holding a stack of my money, and he's got a firearm, but it's down to his side. All right. I'm condition red now. I'm ready to engage. On condition red, it's like I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take the slack out of the trigger and let go. But the guy's got the weapon down to his side, and he's just standing there looking at me like with his jaw down. What do I do? Maybe he's a cop. Maybe he saw someone break in my house. He went in. The guy went out the back window, and he just picked up all the money that was laying on the floor. He had his gun drawn for his own protection, and I just happened to walk in. Could be that scenario. Or it could be I just caught him with his pants down. Right? Now I've got to make that decision, that Johnny on the spot, to shoot or no shoot again. Do I shoot this guy or do I not shoot this guy? Okay? Nobody can give you that answer. I'll tell you what my answer is. I always look at hands. I see the gun. I have to see my weapon's already in position number 3. He's got to bring that gun up. He's in my OODA loop. I'm running the situation. He's not in control. I am. I got the first gun up. If he brings the gun up, I'm gonna let the air out of him. He's got a chance now to say I'm a cop and drop the gun and then produce a badge. Okay, no problem. But in those microseconds, we've got to make a decision. I've got to make a decision, and I'm going to base it on: is he an immediate threat? He is definitely a threat. But is this right now going to come down to who's got the best shooting skills? Right now, I got the best shooting skills, but my weapon's up at number 3. His is down by his side. He's not going to get it up to shoot me fast enough before I put one, in his melon. So that's condition red. Condition red is there is a threat in here, and I got to be ready to deal with it. Okay, how I deal with that threat ultimately depends on circumstances. I just gave you an idea. This is how the version it could be, right? It could be any kind of scenario could pan out, right? So could be your wife or your girlfriend showed up, right? Maybe ex-wife or your girlfriend wants her freaking jewelry back, and you're gonna shoot her. Well, maybe some might deserve it, but like, oh, fuck, here's my chance, man, get rid of this bitch. But no. So nobody can tell you what the right or wrong answer is. But what I'm trying to tell you is there's 4 levels, right? 5 levels: white, yellow, orange, red, and then the last one is condition black. What is condition black? Condition black is that stress shock phenomena, that startle reflex, the deer in the headlights. What do I do? And then you're dead.
You're dead.
Because you didn't have a plan. Okay. So okay. So what's the key here? Well, the key is be aware, always aware. Don't get yourself in stupid situations that you can't get out of. If you do find yourself in a precarious situation or something that might be unpredictable, at least have a predictable response. And that is, for example, the what if scenario. Play the what if game. What if a guy does this? What would I do? I will do that. Doesn't mean it's the right answer. At least you'll do something. So if that scenario pops up, at least you can respond, and you're not standing there in condition black and letting the air out of you. So those are just some very basic survival skill fundamentals. But it always comes down to awareness, a little bit of prior planning. Remember, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. If you have a plan, even a simple plan in your head, and you don't have to keep rehearsing it, just one time. You just have to think about it one time. I would do this. Program the subconscious. It's there. And so there's another thing called the reticular activated system. So now that you've actually visualized a potential scenario, what would I do in case of this happens? Okay, I would do that. You don't think about it anymore. Now what happens is the RAS is part of the subconscious. Now the subconscious becomes more aware of these types of events. Should they present themselves, right away the RAS recognizes for what it is and immediately kicks you into response. You right away respond, okay? Should I tell the helicopter to kind of, should I drive home this teaching point? Okay.
Hell yeah, baby.
All right, so this is how I teach them to drive home the teaching point. Years and years and years ago, I was on a helicopter. We're flying to Fort Benning, Georgia, about 3,000 feet AGL, Blackhawk, sunny day, doors were open, everybody's just sitting back. It's a long flight, And what do you do when you're sitting back in a helicopter? You sit there, you daydream or you sleep. And I remember thinking to myself, what would I do if this helicopter crashed at 3,000 feet above ground level? And I was thinking, well, there ain't a whole lot you can do because when it crashes, and it's a Blackhawk. And Blackhawk crashes are bad. A lot of magnesium alloy, they burn, people die. It's just ugly. The Blackhawk crashes are not good crashing. And I thought, well, hell, man, maybe there's something I can do to enhance for my survivability. Should I happen to survive the crash, I don't want to die inside the helicopter and get burned up or whatever, right? And what would cause me to be caught inside the helicopter and burned up is all my equipment hanging off me, my load-bearing equipment, my rifle and shit slung to me. I don't need that on my body, right? So I thought, well, not much I can do except maybe try to enhance my survivability post-crash. Should I survive it? And so I said, well, I won't need this boonie cap. I'll get rid of that. Oh, I can get rid of this Car 15 M203 grenade launcher. I don't need that hanging off my ass. And I don't need this 35-pound load-bearing equipment on my body. Get rid of that ass. Okay, now I don't have anything on me. I'm slick. What else am I going to do? Need something to hang on. Oh, yeah, there's a red cargo ring on the roof. I just reach up and grab that with both hands and take a knee and just hold on. And that's about as good as it's going to get. There's nothing else I can do. So I rehearsed it in my mind. I go, those are the things I'm going to do. And then that was it. I forgot about it. I never thought about it again ever. For years. Years and years went by. Years later, I was in Panama, in the Darien province, in a helicopter crash. We were flying in the jungle and sitting on the floor. Number one engine on the left side went out, catastrophic failure. I knew we had a problem because as soon as that happened, you could feel the helicopter losing lift like an elevator. All the alarms went off in the cockpit. All the crew chiefs, the door gunners turned around. They're freaking out like, sit down, sit down. We already sitting down, but he's like, hang the fuck on. And we had no seats. We're sitting on the floor. There's no doors. It's wide open. And I thought, oh my God, we're going to crash. And then we hit a tree, snapped the rotor blades off, and now we became a lawn dart, literally flying over the jungle in this freaking thing, green thing. And I remember as soon as all this happened, and I knew we were going to crash, guess what I did? Got rid of the booty cap, 15, got rid of low bearing equipment, took a knee, grabbed the red cargo ring. I went into action, didn't even think about it, just did it, right? Like, whoa. And so, did it save my life? Well, I'll tell you this. At one point, after he snapped the rotor blades off, the helicopter flipped to its side, and I'm literally hanging by the cargo ring, looking straight down the jungle floor. I'm dangling from that thing. That's the only thing keeping me falling out and falling to my death, is that cargo ring. And then the helicopter went belly back down. I ended back inside the helicopter, and I remember thinking, oh my God, when is this thing going to hit? And it hit pretty fast and really hard. Big mess. But then it crashed. Then I kind of woke up inside the helicopter. I thought I was the only person in the helicopter. In fact, there was another guy behind me on an ammo can. He was unconscious, bleeding out, crushed his pelvis. And the two pilots were still sitting in their seats unconscious. The other, what do we have? The other 12 guys all got ejected out of the helicopter, literally all over the jungle, all unconscious. And I'm laying there like a stunned mullet, and I could hear some fizzling and hissing and popping on the transmission. I realized the helicopter's on fire. And I thought, holy shit, I got to get out of this thing, because I'm literally facing a 1,000-gallon auxiliary fuel tank that was a box that was inside the helicopter with us. We strapped it in there. And I'm thinking, this is nothing but a gigantic fuel bomb right now, and it's on fire, and I got to get out of this thing. It's also at that moment I realized I had a broken back. I had crushed L2 and L3 on my lower vertebrae. And it was painful as hell. I couldn't move, and I thought, God, I got to get out of this helicopter. And because I didn't have any equipment on me to slow me down, I was able to roll over my belly like a worm and drag myself to the edge, fall out of the helicopter, which was actually kind of elevated because we were laying across a tree trunk. I fell, I hit the ground, crawled a couple more feet, rolled over onto a log, put my head on the log because I couldn't go any further. And but I'm laying next to this helicopter, could go up in a inferno in a minute. And I just laid there thinking, holy shit, and it got really eerily quiet. Everybody was unconscious. I looked at the guy next to me, the crew chief. His face was ripped off, but he wasn't dead. But I thought he was dead. But he was unconscious, but he was missing his face. My team leader, or my assistant team leader, was laying next to me. Not my medic was laying next to me on my left side. He was conscious, bleeding out of his mouth, broken femur. He couldn't do anything for me either. He was the only guy that was kind of coherent still. Everybody else was asleep. But the moral of the story is this: under stress, what I rehearsed many, many years ago, I just did it. And the question is, did it help me or hurt me? Well, I tell you what, it kept me from falling out of the helicopter. Now, I don't know about the impact, because I was on my knee, if I crashed on my ass even harder because of that or not, I don't know. But I know that getting rid of all the load-bearing equipment and everything I had on my body allowed me to slide out of that helicopter and not be trapped inside of it, right? So what I did was program myself, my subconscious, many, many years ago, one time, and the RS kicked in as soon as they recognized what was going on. I went in emergency action mode, and I did something. So if nothing else, instead of going down a helicopter and crying and worrying about dying, I was actually doing something. It's a lot easier and a lot better to be doing something than just sitting on your ass getting ready to die. And that's what I did. I kicked it in action, and I fought for my life. And yeah, I'm still here. I do have a bad back, but I'm still here. My teammate, or my assistant team leader, is paralyzed from his life. One of the crew chiefs is paralyzed for the rest of his life. In fact, my assistant team leader, that was his third helicopter crash in 6 months. 6 months. Yeah, 5 months earlier, his helicopter got shot down in Modelo Prison. When we went to go get Kurt Muse out, he got shot down, took a rotor strike to the head. And then a month earlier, his helicopter crashed again in a rehearsal and banged him up. So, 3 strikes for him. He was out in 6 months. That was it. That was a career, life-changing event for him. But so I'm, here I am. I'm still walking, running. I'm still doing everything. I'm still on my feet, and I'm grateful for that. But I think in large part, me having that plan, that boilerplate response, made all the difference. So
So
have a plan, even if you only think about it once. It's always good to have a boilerplate plan for something, even for the what if scenarios, so that if you ever walk into an unpredictable situation and an unpredictable thing happens, you've got some action. You're doing something. You're just standing there with your thumb up your ass going, what do I do? You know, too late then.
yeah, I I know you're a busy man. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'm so grateful for you being here. I got one last question for you, and guys, if you both have one short question each, something that's on your heart, there ain't too many options or too many times where you can ask Dale Comstock a question. So make good on that. My last question that I want to know is, in all of your service, good days, bad days, in the army, out of the army, as a man and a spiritual warrior, I want to know your top two moments, and they can be short. You don't have to give me long diatribes, but moments that nourished your soul and the ones that crushed it, you know?
The two moments are that nourished my soul in question. Ready for this? So
Yep.
in Crete, I was doing a daylight close target reconnaissance. Basically, I was dressed as an Iraqi. Um, I was doing a daylight drive-by on a target building. There was a neighborhood. All the buildings were really, all the homes were, they're all together, right? It's one big goddamn fucking, they put them all together like condominiums, right? And they're all white, right? And so I had to go by, identify the target house, and I identified the vehicle. Okay, there's the car. That's the house. That's the guy I need to get. I left the neighborhood, picked up a squadron from Delta Force. They were waiting for me. I said, all right, boys, following behind me. I drove them in, led them to the target. They actually went in to do the raid. And when I pulled up to the target, it's like, wait a minute, the car's gone. Just in a little bit of time, the car was gone. That was one of my key identifiers. Like, fuck, man, which was that house or was that house? And I had it pretty close, right? I pretty much stopped in front of it unwittingly. And when I did, there was a little boy about 2 years old standing on the sidewalk. And by this time, the assault force behind me had already deployed. They got out of the vehicles. They were going over the walls. They're kicking in fucking doors. They're going after his dad. All right, his uncles and brothers and everybody else that was in there, right? All the fucking military age males. They were all bad guys. And this little kid standing on the street holding his fucking toy, and all he sees is these dudes getting out with fucking guns and rage, fucking coming through the fucking wall and going in his house and fucking gunfire, and all hell's breaking loose. And a 2 year old little boy, man, and you can just imagine this kid just lost his shit, screaming and hollering. He just standing there, drops his toy, fucking, and I'm out of the vehicle also with my weapon, and because I'm expecting any moment, we're gonna get fucking hit on the street too, because we're in a hornet's nest. And I see this 2 year old kid. I really see is my 2 year old son standing there, right? That's all I could think of. And I see the scream, and I can remember my kid screaming like that when I left him at daycare, and he didn't want to stay, and he saw me leaving, right? And I'll never forget the look on his face, just mouth wide open, screaming and hollering out through the window, and like, oh my God, but I got to leave him here. And I see this kid doing this on the street, and it reminds me of my own son, man. And so my instinct was, fuck, I gotta help the little guy, man. Fucking, And so I run over and I pick him up, and I hold him in my arm. I got my Kevlar and everything on, but I got him in my arms, man. And I got my weapon out, trying to fucking defend us, and I'm trying to keep this guy calm, And like, it's gonna be okay, little buddy. We got to take your daddy somewhere real quick, but we're gonna be okay, And that was kind of a hard one, man, because it was hard because on one hand, I realized I'm doing this because these little kids are the fucking victims, man. They're the victims of their fathers. They're not the victims of George Bush, by the way. When people talk about, oh, fuck, we just did it for oil, or there's no WMD. No, actually, you know what? There was WMD. You know why? Because I got the letter from DOD saying I was exposed to nerve agent, okay? And they told me, you start fucking twitching, go report to the fucking VA hospital. I know it was there, okay? I know it was there. So I'll debunk that fucking myth right now. There was what WMD there. Two, we didn't do it for the fucking oil because we have more oil under our fucking soil in the United States than Iraq will ever have, or the Middle East will ever have. It wasn't oil. And no matter what the political purpose for it was, all I know is this: we went there for the right reason. You know why we went there for the right reason? Because I saw what they were doing to their own civilians, to their women and children. They were raping the shit out of women. Uday and Qusay, Saddam Hussein's son, had sex palaces. I seen them. I've been there. Okay, and they literally sit their henchmen out on the street to round up any woman that was hot, married or not, didn't matter. She had kids, get rid of fucking kids, grab the woman, bring her here, and they were freaking drugging them and raping them and torturing them in these palaces, man. Oh, this was their thing, man. All around the pool, all the dudes would come over, fucking getting high, getting drunk, and fucking everybody's wife, and you had nothing to say about it. I watched them kill off fucking farmers' families because a cow crossed over in their property. And the guy approaches and he goes, "No, that's my cow." Okay, your cow? Okay, killed his fucking wife and kids. Now that's your cow. No, okay, it's your cow now, right? I saw what they did to the Iraqi people. So I don't want to hear no bullshit from anybody about, well, it was unjust what we did. Or fuck you. That's all I'm going to tell you. You haven't been there, shut the fuck up. All right? Because I saw what they did to those civilians and with those kids. And when I saw what happened to that kid that day, it really hit home because I thought about my own kid. I go, man, this is why I'm here. Because their dads are a bunch of bad guys and they've killed a lot of Americans. All right? They're protecting this bullshit of raping women and all the shit that was going on in Iraq, Saddam Hussein. And this little kid here is a victim of that. You know, and so I had a moment there where I thought about my own child and trying to comfort this kid, you know, because he ain't got nobody to comfort him, because if he did, they wouldn't be doing this shit and putting him in this fucking place that he's in. So, you know, therein was a moment where my heart was lifted, but also it was a moment of tragedy for me. It's like, fuck, you know, it's, you know, what I mean? It's like, and it was one thing, one kid made that whole difference for me, you know? And I get really passionate about that because I was there. I fucking hated when I hated civilians sitting on their couch behind their fucking classrooms talking shit about the Iraqi war. I don't give a fuck if there was no WMD or any fucking oil. Okay? I don't give a shit. What I do know this is what they were fucking doing to people. And if you have any humanity in you, you even give a fuck about people, you would have support that war too, knowing what I know. So, and because you don't know what happened there, shut the fuck up. You have nothing to say. You have no opinion. It matters zero. Nothing. And I have that to say about goddamn every fucking conflict we've been in. Unless you've been there, shut the fuck up. You have no fucking opinion. If you were not a war fighter, I mean a guy out there, a war fighter, but you were some pogue behind the sandbags flipping fucking hamburgers, you don't have an opinion either. Shut the fuck up. It's the guys that were out there meeting the threat head on and actually seeing what was happening, man, on the ground and living that every fucking day. Those are the guys have an opinion. They have the opinion. And so there it is, you know, that was my high and low point all in one fucking moment with one fucking little boy right there, you know?
Thank you for sharing that. That was, damn. You know, that hit home, man.
Yo, wow,
You know?
man. You made my
you guys got any final questions before we close this out?
No,
No, man.
Yeah,
I don't think you can top that.
Dale, you are the one and only. You're the best guest we've had and may ever have, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You've really changed my life, and you're a testament to what a man can be and what a good man is. And you know, I hope that anyone that watches this just finds it in their heart to stand up in whatever way they can, you know. And I know that you've really helped me to do that in my own life, because everybody's scared of something, but it's usually your own fucking shadow once you actually get out there and start putting one foot in front of another. So thank you.